What's up, guys? What's up, guys? So today we gotta talk about Democratic Representative LaMonica McIver. Remember her, the lady who allegedly assaulted an ICE officer almost a month back. She has now been indicted on a 3-count charge. Federal grand jury has returned an indictment charging New Jersey Representative LaMonica McIver for allegedly assaulting law enforcement officers outside of an immigration detention facility last month, officials announced Tuesday. The 3-count indictment charges the Democratic Congresswoman with forcibly impeding and interfering with federal law enforcement officers at the facility. New Jersey U.S. Attorney Alana Habba said in a post on X. That's your girl, Alana Habba. More charges against Representative LaMonica McIver sparked backlash after incident with ICE agents. As I've stated in the past, it is my constitutional obligation as the chief federal law enforcement officer for New Jersey to ensure that our federal partners are protected when executing their duties, Habba said. While people are free to express their views for or against particular policies, they must not do so in a manner that endangers law enforcement and the communities those officers serve. The indictment is a standard procedural step after Habba's office charged McIver via criminal complaint last month. McIver has vowed she will fight the charges and plans to plead not guilty. The fact of this case will prove I was simply doing my job and I will expose those proceedings for what they are. Brazen attempt at political intimidation, she said in a statement on X. This indictment is no more justified than the original charges and is an effort by Trump's administration to dodge accountability for the chaos ICE caused and scare me out of doing the work I was elected to do, which was nothing. But it won't work. I will not be intimidated. So let's check it out. Let's look at what this woman was doing.
A New Jersey congresswoman is facing federal charges after a confrontation with immigration agents in Newark. The Justice Department has charged Congresswoman LaMonica McIver with assaulting federal agents outside a detention facility. She claims the charges are politically motivated. A trespassing charge against Newark's mayor stemming from that same incident has been dropped.
Time now for your Tuesday weather.
Good morning. Numerous tornado reports on Monday for places like Oklahoma all the way up to Nebraska. Well, now that's severe.
On May 9th, McIver and a few other members of Congress were at Delaney Hall, a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement's detention facility in Newark, New Jersey, to conduct oversight. Tensions escalated when federal officers ordered New York Mayor Ras Baraka to leave a secured area of the facility or face arrest, and pushing and shoving allegedly occurred. according to prosecutors. During her continued attempt to thwart the arrest, McIver slammed her forearm into the body of one law enforcement officer and also reached out and tried to restrain that officer by forcibly grabbing him. The Department of Justice said in a press release on Tuesday. McIver also used each of her forearms to forcibly strike a second officer. Following the charges via criminal complaint, McIver alleged in a statement that the decision was politically motivated. The charges against me are purely political. They mischaracterize and distort my actions and are meant to criminalize and deter legislative oversight, McIver said. Yeah, that was you, basically. Top House Democrats also released a joint statement last month defending McIver, vowing to vigorously respond to what they say is an illegitimate abuse of power. An attack on one of us is an attack on the American people. House Democrats will respond vigorously in the days to come at a time, place, and manner of choosing, the leaders said. If convicted, the maximum penalty for the charges in the indictment ranges from 1 to 8 years, Hava said. Baraka was arrested at the facility and charged with trespassing, though Haba later dropped the charge. So, they have now fully returned with indictment charges for LaMonica Ivor by the grand jury. I wonder why, while we're being all distracted with what's happening in LA, I think it's time that we have actually seen some action. And I'm actually glad that we are getting some action. And I'm actually kind of glad that we are getting some type of action towards these type of people in the first place, because this is crazy. That was just crazy. This was just crazy. You know, the whole incident, I mean, we literally see you on video assaulting an ICE officer. And you guys wanted to stand around the mayor in a circle and forcefully interfere on a arrest, claiming that it was unlawful. Man, what you guys were doing was pretty much unlawful. What you guys were doing were pretty much unlawful. What you guys were doing is unlawful. You're interfering with, you refuse to work with ICE. So now ICE has to go into the communities and find these illegal immigrants because you refuse to work with ICE. So if there's anybody to really blame for this, it's basically Democrats and these liberal governors, because they are the ones that are refusing to work with the federal government. shouldn't that be seen as insurrectionists? That you will work against the federal government? That you will work against the federal government? The way that you guys were doing, or the way that you guys are doing now? This is literally what you guys asked for. This is what you guys asked for. This is literally what you guys asked for. This is literally what you guys asked for. This is literally what you guys asked for. Literally. And you can't make this up. They're going to try to sit there and try to downplay this. They're going to say this is just for political gains. There's no these are baseless facts. All of this. They're going to say these are baseless claims. This is just political intimidation. And that pretty much that is what the Trump administration is doing. They're going to blame everything on Trump. They are going to blame everything on Trump. All right, hold on, guys. Freaking phone freezing up and all that stuff. They are literally going to blow this over. You know? But like, comment, he said, like, comment, and subscribe, and let's move on from there. While all of Americans are being distracted by what is happening with the illegal immigrant crisis, look what this guy had to say. Look at what this guy had to say. Yemen's Al-Qaeda branch leader threatens Trump and Musk and others. You see this going on? Saad bin Atif al-Awlaki is a member of Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula Syrian Council, the terrorist group's highest governing body. He has publicly called for attacks against the United States and its allies. If you have information, yeah, you see it. So while the leader of Al-Qaeda's Yemen branch has threatened both the U.S. President Donald Trump and billionaire Elon Musk over the Israel-Hamas war in the Gaza Strip in his first video message since taking over the group last year. The half-hour video message of Saad bin, which spread online early Saturday via supporters of Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula also included calls for lone wolf militants and the Gulf Arab states over the war, which has decimated Gaza. The video of, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, speech showed images of Trump and Musk as well as U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and Secretary of State Pete Hegseth. It also includes images of logos of Musk's businesses, including the electric car maker Tesla. There are no red lines after what happened and is happening to our people in Gaza. Reciprocity is legitimate, though believed to be weakened in recent years due to infighting and suspected U.S. drone strikes killing its leaders. The group, known by the acronym AQAP, has been considered the most dangerous branch of Al-Qaeda, still operating after the 2011 killing by the U.S. Navy SEALs of founder Osama bin Laden, who masterminded the September 11, 2001 attacks. In 2022, a U.S. drone strike in Afghanistan killed bin Laden's successor, don't know how to pronounce his name, who also helped plot 9/11. The September 11 attacks then began decades of war by the U.S. in Afghanistan and Iraq, and fomented the rise of the Islamic State group. He said Al-Awlaki already has a $6 million U.S. bounty on his head, as Washington says. Al-Awlaki has publicly called for attacks against the United States and its allies. He replaced AQAP leader Khalid al-Batarfi, whose death was announced by the group in 2024. AQAP seizing into the Israel-Hamas war follows the efforts of Yemen's Houthi rebels to do the same. The Iranian-backed group has launched missile attacks on Israel and targeted commercial vessels moving through the Red Sea corridor, as well as American warships. The U.S. Navy has described their campaign against the Houthis as the most intense combat it has faced since World War II. The Trump administration also launched its own intense campaign of strikes on the Houthis, which only ended before the president's recent trip to the Middle East. The Houthis' international profile rose as the group remains mired in Yemen's long stalemate war. Al-Awlaki may be betting on the same for his group, which UN experts have estimated has between 3,000 and 4,000 active fighters and passive members. The group raises money by robbing banks and money exchange shops, as well as smuggling weapons, counterfeiting currencies, and ransom operations, according to the UN. So, while we're sitting there being distracted with he said these immigration raids, with ICE raids, protests, riots, here comes World War III at the same time. Here comes World War III. So the Democrats are not even, I wonder why they're not even reporting on this in the mainstream liberal media. I wonder why. I wonder why. Let's keep reading. The Shiite Zadis Houthis have previously denied working with Aqqam, a Sunni extremist group. However, Aqqam targeting of the Houthis has dropped in recent years, while the militants keep attacking Saudi-led coalition forces who have battled the Houthis. As the Houthis gain popularity as leaders of the Arab and Muslim world's resistance against Israel, al-Awlaki seeks to challenge their dominance by presenting himself as equally concerned about the situation in Gaza, said Mohammed al-Bashar, a Yemen expert of the Bashar Report Risk Advisory Firm. For the national security and foreign policy community increasingly disengaged from Yemen, this video is a clear reminder Yemen still matters. Copyright 2025, The Associated Press. So, let's listen to this article.
Yemen's al-Qaeda branch leader threatens Trump, Musk, and others. By John Gambrell. The leader of al-Qaeda's Yemen branch has threatened both U.S. President Donald Trump and billionaire Elon Musk over the Israel-Hamas war in the Gaza Strip in his first video message since taking over the group last year. The half-hour video message by Saad bin Atef al-Awlaki, which spread online early Saturday via supporters of al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, also included calls for lone wolf militants to assassinate leaders in Egypt, Jordan, and the Gulf Arab states over the war, which has decimated Gaza. The video of al-Awlaki's speech showed images of Trump and Musk, as well as U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and Secretary of State Pete Hegseth. It also included images of logos of Musk's businesses, including the electric car maker Tesla. There are no red lines after what happened and is happening to our people in Gaza, al-Awlaki said. Reciprocity drone strikes killing its leaders. The group known by the acronym AQAP had been considered the most dangerous branch of al-Qaeda still operating, after the 2011 killing by U.S. Navy SEALs of founder Osama bin Laden, who masterminded the September 11, 2001 attacks. In 2022, a U.S. drone strike in Afghanistan killed bin Laden's successor, Ayman al-Zawahiri, who also helped plot 9/11. The September 11th attacks then began decades of war by the U.S. in Afghanistan and Iraq and fomented the rise of the Islamic State group. Al-Awlaki already has a $6 million U.S. bounty on his head, as Washington says Al-Awlaki has publicly called for attacks against the United States and its allies. He replaced AQAP leader Khalid al-Batarfi, whose death was announced by the group in 2024. AQAP, seizing onto the Israel-Hamas war, follows the efforts of Yemen's Houthi rebels to do the same. The Iranian-backed group has launched missile attacks on Israel and targeted commercial vessels moving through the Red Sea corridor, as well as American warships. The U.S. Navy has described their campaign against the Houthis as the most intense combat it has faced since World War II. The Trump administration also launched its own intense campaign of strikes on the Houthis, which only ended before the president's recent trip to the Middle East. The Houthis' international profile rose as the group remains mired in Yemen's long stalemated war. Al-Awlaki may be betting on the same for his group, which UN experts have estimated has between 3,000 and 4,000 active fighters and passive members. The group raises money by robbing banks and money exchange shops, as well as smuggling weapons, counterfeiting currencies, and ransom operations, according to the UN. The Shiite Zaidi Houthis have previously denied working with AQAP, a Sunni extremist group. However, targeting of the Houthis has dropped in recent years, while the militants keep attacking Saudi coalition forces who have battled the Houthis. As the Houthis gain popularity as leaders of the Arab and Muslim world's resistance against Israel, Al-Awlaki seeks to challenge their dominance by presenting himself as equally concerned about the situation in Gaza, said Mohammed al-Basha, a Yemen expert of the Basha Report risk advisory firm. For a national security and foreign policy community increasingly disengaged from Yemen, this video is a clear reminder: Yemen still matters.
Okay, so now you heard that. While y'all are being distracted with immigration, with ICE raids, and all these protests and riots, this is what's going on. This is literally what's going on. Oh, so yeah, this is literally what's going on. Why are they not reporting on this? How come they are not reporting on this? How come they are not reporting on this at all? I want to know, why do you guys think they're not reporting on this? Why do you think they're not reporting on such chaos? Why do you think they're not necessarily interested in reporting this type of news? And everything has just been about what Trump is doing, Everything is Trump's fault. Trump's fault. So, what do you guys think about what that article said? Comment, he said, like, comment, and subscribe. We're going to move on to the next topic. So, we got to wait for this stuff to pull up. So, hold on. on for a second. Let me see. Hold on for a second. Let me see. It is. Oh, why is my... Come on, man. You know, we are going to move to the next topic. And our next topic is going to be about China. So, for those of you who necessarily did not understand why he put tariffs on China the way that he did, let me show you why. Let me show you why. And they're not going to talk about this in the mainstream liberal media, but allow me to show you exactly why Trump did what he did when it comes to these tariffs and this trade war with China. The world is in a mobile security crisis as Chinese hackers and users' lapses put smartphones at risk. Hold on, because it's going to take this slow-ass computer some time to finish loading. Bro, I didn't ask for that. All this extra shit. Yeah, so my computer is acting real slow, so I'm about to read it from the phone. Foreign hackers. The world is in a mobile security crisis as Chinese hackers and user lapses put smartphones at risk. Foreign hackers have increasingly identified smartphones, other mobile devices, and the apps they use as a weak link in U.S. cyber defense. Cybersecurity investigators noticed a highly unusual software crash. It was affecting a small number of smartphones belonging to people who worked in government, politics, tech, and journalism. The crashes, which began late last year and carried into 2025, were the tip-off to a sophisticated cyber attack that may have allowed hackers to infiltrate a phone without a single click from the user. The attackers left no clues about their identities, but investigators at the cybersecurity firm iVerify noticed that the victims all had something in common. They worked in fields of interest to China's government and had been targeted by Chinese hackers in the past. Foreign hackers have increasingly identified smartphones, other mobile devices, and the apps they use as weak links in the U.S. cyber defenses. Groups linked to China's military and intelligence service have targeted the smartphones of prominent Americans and borrowed deep into telecommunications network, according to the national security and tech expert. It shows how vulnerable mobile devices and apps are and the risk that security failures could expose sensitive information or leave American interests open to cyber attacks, those experts say. This is exactly why we gonna fuck around and go to war with China. This is exactly why we gonna end up going to war with China. Because China is about to F around to find out. China is about to F around and find out. This is exactly what Trump was talking about. This is exactly what Trump was talking about. This is what the mainstream liberal media is not talking about. And this is Forbes. I mean, not Forbes. This is Fortune article. My computer is the worst. But this is exactly what China was talking about. I mean, not China. What Trump was talking about. This is exactly why we're preparing to go to war with China. This is what Pete Hegseth was talking about. This is exactly what the administration was blatantly sitting there trying to expose. But the mainstream liberal media is distracting y'all with protests and riots. They're not reporting on this. I wonder why. Because CNN, Chinese News Network, that's what we just gonna call them, Chinese News Network from here on out. And MSDNC, this is what they don't want y'all to be focused on. While they continue to blame Trump for everything that's happening as far as these ICE raids and these doggone immigration protests, anti-ICE protests. Y'all heard it here from me. This is what they're distracting y'all from. This is what they are distracting y'all from. But anywho, that's the end of the show. Like, comment, and subscribe. We out.